What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Sunday Reset with Will and Friends. And today, my friend is Lakisha Mosley. Lakisha is a passionate advocate in mental health and entrepreneurship space, dedicated to helping women prioritize their mental well-being while building sustainable success. Lakisha curates transformational experiences as CEO and founder of the LM Experience that empower women to take charge of their mental health without sacrificing their business goals. Lakisha, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Will. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. So the first thing that stands out when I'm, engaging with your content and even just reading that bio is it seems like a big part of your mission is specifically to women and balancing, mental health with their career success. What made you so passionate about that space?
Well, of course, as being a woman myself, it was the whole harmony piece of how do I maintain a business, but also maintain my mental health in the process. What I found was that we juggled too many things and we were swapping sanity for success. It was okay to go cuckoo, but it was not okay to not be successful. And so at some point, I'm like, when are we going to get off the hamster wheel of doing that? Women wear a lot of hats, sometimes self-inflicted. We put on more things than we should. But I saw a lot of women that looked like me in the workplace as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as a grandma, as a spouse, just trying to really play juggling act with all these things when some things we need to put down and then there are some things we need to learn how to harmonize together. And so I just made it my mission after I myself struggled with the breakdown to empower other women to be able to, let's call a thing. Let's call it what it is. But also let's put together some tips, tools, and strategies that can help us navigate these different hats that we have to wear throughout our lifetime.
Got it. And that, there's so much to pull just from that. But what stood out to me at first was just you talk about women wearing a lot of hats. And, I flash back to, have you seen the Barbie movie?
No, I have not yet.
There's a great scene in that where they talk about you have to be this, but you can't be that. And America Ferrera breaks it down so well. And, for women out there that are, struggling balancing those hats, like what's the first thought you have when they're wearing so many hats?
First and foremost, you need to be checking on you or taking care of you. I feel as if we always want to take care of each other, but not ourselves. Women sometimes have, this complex of we need to be needed. I'm going to just say it like that. That may hurt some feelings. That may ruffle a few feathers, but hell, I'm a disruptor. So I just come to tell it how it is. We need to be needed for some reason, and I don't understand why we have that innate need to be needed. But we need to take care of ourselves. So one of the hats that we need to make sure that it's always on and that it's always being taken care of is the hat of self. How are you taking care of yourself today, every day? Every minute. I hear moms say, girl, sometimes I got to go in the bathroom for 5 minutes and just say, don't knock on the door. Because they're trailing behind me to the bathroom. Sometimes it's just going outside on your patio and just breathing in, some fresh air. Now, if you live in Houston, sometimes the air quality isn't that great. But listen, we can still do that here. In this great state. But it's like finding that little bitty thing it is that makes you happy, that makes you joyous in that moment in doing so.
So, did this mission start with you? It feels like you're pulling from some personal experiences here.
It did not start with me. I will
Okay.
have to be honest. When a lot of people ask me that and they are like, girl, you're tripping. This did not start with me. During the pandemic, we had a lot of stuff going on. There was the murder of George Floyd that was happening. There was a lot of racism that was going on. And so as someone who curates experiences, I said, well, let me throw together some panels. We can't go outside. We can't congregate. Let's just talk online. And so I started these series called Racism in Black America. And I took different industries. And the last one was mental health. And oh my gosh, it was so amazing. It was packed. We went over time. I got so many messages of, you need to keep this conversation going. So it's really out of just mere curiosity of, what is this mental health piece? I knew it had ran in my family, but in a lot of Black communities and a lot of Black families, it's not talked about. So I never really knew what my grandmother went through. I never really knew what my aunt went through. And now, being an advocate and having these certifications, now I'm like, my mom was the same way and my uncles were the same. Like, all these things started to come up. So for me, it was just out of mere curiosity, just like, let's see what I can do to empower my community. Because it really started with Black women for me. Empowering my community of how we can do better. And then it just became this big mission of everyone. So when I started to feel kind of wonky and I was like no longer wanting to be here, when I had these subtle suicidal ideations, for me, it was okay. Now you got everything in your hands, girl. You got all these people in your network who are therapists, clinicians, practitioners. What are you doing? And I just decided after a visit to my doctor for a well woman visit, because Will, we be thinking it's something physical. Oh, the bones ache. I'm getting old. That's why I'm feeling this way. I was approaching my 46th birthday. So I was like,
Uh-huh.
the girl getting old. Let me go get a pill. She was like, no, ma'am, you need a head doctor. And I need you to go see one very seriously. And so I had to sit out for a couple of months. My business, thank God, sustained during that time. But I had to sit down and I had to really figure out what was going on with Lakisha and how, as someone who was showing up in this space, but was not being authentic, was wearing a mask every single day, how could I, number one, tell my truth to get people to trust me again? Because I figured once I told the truth, people was going to be like, girl, you're a fraud. You out here faking the funk, whatever. Thank God that didn't happen. People really were like, oh my gosh, maybe now I need to go get checked. Maybe now I need to go do these things. After I was diagnosed and had this long conversation with God, and I said, I'm going to make it my mission that no woman has to ever struggle. White, Black, brown, purple, whatever, will never have to struggle alone as long as I have breath and I have a platform for them. And so I just started going head in, like, everything was mental health. Everything was mental health. And I wanted to be disruptive with it because, I mean, we hear all these crazy things about mental health and what it is and isn't. And I'm like, it's the main piece of you. We all have mental health. Just some of us have a condition.
It's a good way to look at it. I really appreciate. There's just, again, there's so many things I can pull from that. The first thought I want to talk about though is less about women, more about the Black community, because I've heard this from a bunch of my friends that are Black who talk about mental health just isn't talked about in that community in any breath. Could you give me some examples of maybe how you've had those conversations with family, with friends, in your community?
Family is probably the worst to have it with,
Sure.
being that, um, so I'm a PK, and a preacher's kid, and so when you throw that into the loop of being someone from a Black community, now we bring up other issues. So being coming from a family that was very religious, the topic is really not approached. It is, well, you don't have faith. You're not praying enough. You haven't been talking to God, and in these instances, well, all you do is talk to God. Like, you wear the man out because you just like, Jesus, it's so much going on right now. And so those conversations are really hard to navigate, especially when you deal with older people in your family who have went through Jim Crow, who have went through, sharecropping, or who heard stories of how our ancestors through, in slavery, only had God. And it's like, yeah, for that time, that was probably all they had or
That
they
that was the best
needed.
they could do.
That was the best that they could do at that time. You're right. For us, it's a different ball game. I feel, and I do feel like, and they may say this is blasphemous for, as far as slavery. I do feel like in those communities, in those pods of slavery, there was someone in there who had these conversations with our ancestors. I do feel like that. Even where we had white advocates for us, I feel like someone in the mix was having these type of conversations. I believe that. But I feel like now we've come to a time where God has created therapy, therapists, created all of these things that we can do. So therefore, we should be having these conversations more, but it's really hard to approach them when all someone knows is faith, God, the Bible, and prayer. And it's not that you don't need those things. You need prayer and you need faith um, and I got blasted a few years ago. I posted a video where I talked about, trying to talk to Black communities about this, where all our ancestors had was this one thing, and now trying to explain that. And I said, faith is not a suitable substitution for mental health care. And it absolutely is not. It is not. I'm sorry. I'll probably get blasted again, but
You
it's
know,
not.
you're in safe hands with me. I'm not particularly religious myself. However, I do understand the value that it gives people, and it
Right.
gives them hope, and it gives them something. And back, when you're talking about the slavery piece, you know, that was all that they needed. Hope. They needed something to get them through. And so
Yeah.
this was what they were tying themselves to. And so I
Uh-huh.
can understand then you get to a few generations later, they're like, well, our ancestors went through this. If we can't handle what's going on in our day-to-day lives without therapy and all that stuff, then like who are we?
Yes.
And I don't know, that ideology always has bugged me, because it's kind of like the thing I hear today is like, man, all these kids are autistic and all these kids are ADHD. Like we didn't have all this when well, we did. We didn't know what to call it.
Exactly.
We just didn't know what to call it yet. Doesn't mean that it didn't exist. It just means we didn't refer to it that way, and we didn't have the
Exactly.
label for it. And so now we are more aware of that information. So it's like,
Right.
this is the new set of circumstances, but like it never actually changed. It's just we now know we gave it a name.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So agree.
Yeah.
So agree. Yes. And religion is something I don't subscribe to. I am a believer. I am a Christian entrepreneur. However, I don't subscribe to any um organized type thing that they have. My dad was a pastor and very transformative for his time. The conversations that my dad and I had are conversations I'm having now with ministers and spiritual leaders. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, Dad, you were so far advanced, which is why he probably was a little disruptive in his time as well. But it's like we can't when we subscribe to those things, we leave people locked in bondage. And the church is supposed to be a place of healing. And if I can't go to the church and say something ain't right, I ain't feeling right without you hitting me over my head with scripture, then where can I go? Like, what can I do? And so I feel like, especially for our community, which is why I targeted it a little bit more at first, and I still do have some initiatives that are just for us, is that there's a lack of knowledge and understanding in our community that doesn't occur in other communities. And it is a disparity. There is lack of resources. There are lack of availability. A lot of times, we have to drive from our communities into other communities to get this type of help, and that shouldn't happen. We should have it right in our communities.
I could speak for days about the lack of resources in certain communities and that, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about this. You mentioned your dad being a disruptor and you're a preacher's
Yes,
kid, but you've also referred to yourself as a disruptor. So do you think you
yes.
get some of that from him, or does it come in other places?
It's probably a combination between my mom and him,
Okay.
but I think more so my dad in a lot of aspects of how I articulate things. I think he was integral in teaching me how to be disruptive, but be respectful in that way. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to come outside the box, outside the norm. We grew up Baptist. So, my
And Southern
dad,
Baptist too.
yes, Southern Baptist, straight
Whole
from
different breed.
Louisiana.
For those who are unaware, that's a
Yes.
whole different breed of Baptist.
Like, Will, they don't understand. Like, there's no days off. in church, especially if your father is a pastor.
No kidding.
It is no days off. There is this level of ex expectations that people have for you. These stigmas, these things that people think about you. Like church is like all day, y'all. Like, yeah, it's like an all day thing.
Yeah, it's you got the actual ceremony itself. Then you've got
Yep.
the lunch afterwards, and then
Yes.
there's activities, and then you got the dinner. It's a whole process. Same with if you're from the South and you've got like a family member who passes away, like the
Oh
funeral
Lord.
process in the South is just so much more in depth, so much more community based, so much more.
Yes.
My grandparents on my mom's side they lived in Kentucky, and when they both passed away, like I remember going to their funerals, and just it was, I mean, it was a whole day affair. It was, we're not just going to this and being done. It is, and everyone's bringing their best dish. By the way, still to this day, one of the best meals I've ever had in my entire life was
Yeah.
my grandmother's funeral, because
Mhm.
everyone was like, no, I'm the best at this. I'm the best at the fried chicken. I'm the best at the collard greens. And then everybody brings it together. And I'm like, look, I know I'm sad and all, but like this food is really good.
Like really good.
Really
Yes.
good.
Yes. The repast is almost like it's a whole affair.
Yeah.
It's a whole affair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Definitely.
I could see how when you grow up in it, it's in that life, like how do you find a way to like reach those people? But you also
Right.
call out being disruptive, but being intentional essentially with the way you go about it, and not
Exactly.
trying to force anything on anybody.
Right.
Because to me, like, I'm all for disruption, but beating somebody over the head with any thought, no matter how passionate I believe, is not going to get us anywhere.
Right. Yeah. We can't do that. And even when I posted this video about, faith and mental health, and I had, black people on the post. Well, the Bible says I can do all things through Christ that strengthen me. And that's not what the verse actually says. Is that, when you dive deep, it's Paul talking through himself of how he's going to get. Paul was shipwrecked. He was all these things. So it's like, come on. If you're going to come at me with scripture, make sure you know what you're talking about, because
Bring
I can come
receipts.
back at you. They were like, well, when you call it out like that, you're subscribing to what it is. And I'm like, that's why so many people now today go and blow their heads off. That's why so many people now today, we find them dead, because it's people like you who say things like that make people feel as if they have nowhere else to go. They have no one that they can talk to, and no one can understand what they are going through. We are the reason that some of these people who have died by suicide are actually gone. We're the reason. We need to own what it is, and I get very passionate about it. But when you want to lay scripture out, I'm gonna lay it back out to you. I'm gonna give you what the real reason or the real meaning of that is. If you come at me trying to tell me that because I say that I have high functioning depression, that's why I have it because I keep speaking it. No, I may have it, but it doesn't have me. It's actually a superpower that causes me to be very empathetic to you when you be really ridiculous and say things that are just really stupid. So instead of calling you stupid, it gives me the power to say, let me break this down to you like this. When you really want to just say, you need to stop talking. You really need to stop talking. We really put people in bad places where they can't talk about how they feel. And then the next thing we know, they're no longer here. That saddens me that people don't have outlets that are safe for them to go and say things into.
That resonates with me so much, because that's where all of this started for me. Is, you know, I was in a really dark place back in 2015, and over the next few years was, various life events happened, and I've talked ad nauseum about those, but getting back into therapy and then working on myself and figuring things out, and then I was in a bit of a transition period, and was like, okay, I love writing, and writing was what helped me process what I was going through. How do
Mm-hmm.
I what did I need back then? And to your point, it's you need to feel less alone, right? You need to know that it's okay to that you feel this way. And so I started writing and sharing my stuff because like why not? I'll put it out there, make someone feel less alone in their struggle. And that's
Yeah,
been the battle that I've been trying to fight for years is just if we put these things out there, we acknowledge it. Like
that part.
cuz you mentioned, people are dying by suicide because at least in part because they feel like nobody's going to understand. We make them
Mm-hmm.
feel less than. And,
Yeah.
you know, in my community with the highest rate of suicide growth in the United States is middle-aged men.
Yes.
And so I scoff whenever I meet a man who's like, "Oh, feelings repressed, all this stuff." It's like clearly that plan's not working. I don't know how
It
to
ain't
break
working for
like
you, bro,
the data doesn't support what you're saying. Maybe we have to try
at
something
all.
different.
At all. At
So
all.
so
You're
okay,
right.
so then for you from a disruption standpoint, like so what do you do with women today with your company? Like how do you go about helping them take charge of their mental health? What does that look like?
So there's like three facets to like my company. So my main company, which is Lakisha Mosley, LLC, that is like the thought leadership that these other two kind of branch out of. So for me, that's where you get the disruption, you get the speaker, you get, all of the things that you see mainly online. The LM experience is where I actually do the curation for my mental health and wellness events. We create experiences out of these things. So I have an annual conference that I've been doing. This year was year 6 during the month of May called My Mind is My Business. And it is for entrepreneurs and business folks. But I have people come who don't even have business. So if you're in Houston and want to come, like just come. But we talk about things that, you know, you probably won't hear in regular conferences. We talked about grief this year. We talked about showing up from hustle to harmony. Like, when we gonna stop? Like, just when we gonna stop? And then, I talked about the power of showing up. And so the LM experience curates these experiences. So like we have something we're doing for Men's Mental Health Month. We have something for Minority Mental Health Month. We pull things out every month of the year, just to keep conversations going, because mental health is not just May. It's all year long. So we want to keep the conversations going. And then the newest branch is Mind Your Business. And that is really the talk safe space for women entrepreneurs, where we congregate in this group and we talk. I drop posts and prompts, have a few digital goodies for them. But it's just a space where they can go and feel supported. Um, I feel like, Will, whether you're a man or a woman, as an entrepreneur, if you work for yourself, you a one man band. You everything, boo. You are everything. So if a mental health crisis, not a condition, but a crisis come up where you're anxious, you're not diagnosed with anxiety, but you're anxious, you can't shut down. You cannot shut down. Accounting has to be done. Taxes got to be done. Content has to be done. Whatever. So where can you go to say, I'm not okay? And I either need you to pray for me, because I'm a faith girl. We still pray. Can you pray for me? Can you walk me through these? Do you have steps of how, if I'm anxious, what can I do? How do I implement self-care into my daily lifestyle and my business? If I'm an owner and I have a team, how do I empower the people on my team that they can say, today Lakeisha is not a good day. I probably need to take a mental health day. And I support that. How do I, as an owner who knows stuff got to get done, it got to get done. But if my team member is not whole, he or she cannot do the task, how do I learn the grace to give to them to be able to do so? And so Mind Your Business was something God gave to me the moment that I had the breakdown and I said I wanted to do something different. But it took me 2 years to build it. Being disobedient, you know how we do. We want to do it in our time. And so actually I launched it last year around Black Friday, and it's really growing. And it's slow growing, but I think because this is not something is fast. A lot of people don't acknowledge that there's something going on with them. And so we just want to be there when they show up. We want to be there.
The slow growing part, you know, especially with like the younger generation, like everything, I get it. We have the information at our fingertips, and we see these people on
Right.
social media who are, you know, the sensations overnight, and but
Right.
people undervalue the fact that like sometimes like it's best to grow slowly because you're
Yes.
doing it intentionally. You get to learn, you get to develop, and then that way, to your point, when
Right.
people do show up, you are that much more prepared because you put the time in, you put the effort in.
Exactly. Exactly. I will tell you that I can't pinpoint this exactly, but the biggest growth for the LM experience was during the pandemic because we were an in-person event curation company. We were doing anywhere from 7 to 10 in-person events a year for clients, not necessarily internally, but just, for clients, because my mind is my business didn't actually happen till 2020. I can tell you from 2021 to 2022, I had the most growth ever, and I wasn't prepared for it. I was not prepared. We found a way to make virtual just as good as in person. We found ways to do it. The team I had at that time, and it was a lot of amazing interns who were hungry. I mean, we talk crap about millennials, but I mean, listen, I'm a Gen X. So we worked very well together, which a lot of Gen X don't work well with millennials. But we were able to find ways to bring virtual event curation in a way that was good. And so I can recall, Will, in 2022, um, from like the third week of January to probably the first week in May, we didn't have a weekend off. We had that many events back to back every weekend, and maybe a few scattered during the week. So imagine an owner who, yeah, I know my stuff in events, but I didn't know how to scale. I didn't know how to scale. So imagine in 2022, August, having a breakdown.
Because it all came so fast. And then to your point, you have a team and you've spoken about being very intentional about making sure everyone feels like they can take care of themselves.
Right.
But you have to lead by example.
That part. And I was not.
I was gonna say, so then you mentioned, okay, so in August you had your breakdown. What was that experience
Hmm.
like as an owner?
It was terrible, I will tell you, because I didn't know what it was. I just felt like that year I was turning 46. So I'm like, okay, you're getting older. You feeling different. And I can recall my mom saying, she felt different. By this time my mom has already passed. Um, but I remember just feeling really tired and lethargic, and I'm like, oh, well, we came off this big roller coaster of events and things like that, and navigating just life and this pandemic at that time in 2022, it was still a lot of unanswered questions. But then we were slowly like reopening. And then I was like, I love the isolation. So now here we go. We're about to go back into the world. And I just started to feel really, really weird. I had these passive suicidal ideations where I didn't want to do anything to myself, but if something happened, I was okay with it. If I didn't wake up, I was okay. If I got hit by a car, now how would I get hit by a car? I don't know, y'all. But if I got hit by a car, I would be okay. Like I would be okay. And so I said, let me go to the doctor. Like it's time for my well woman. It's August is my birthday month. Let me go. And the mask fell off. She asked those mental health questions, and I guess I answered them as truthfully as possible. And she said, I need you to look me in my eyes right now. I'm like, sure. And I've been going to this doctor for years. So she said, I need you to go see a therapist today. You are severely depressed. And I'm like, no, ma'am. Just give me a pill. I'm tired. My body aches. Like, I'm just done. And she said no. She walked out, made a call. I saw a therapist the next day, and I cried for the first 30, 45 minutes of the session. And he said, okay, we done? Now let's get to work. And the rest is history. He suggested I take some time off. Thank God for the team I had. Thank God for the clients I had at that time. A lot of hard conversations, Will. A lot of hard conversations, a lot of adjustments. Because you know how people say once they're diagnosed with something, how like they feel different. I felt different. I no longer could go back to that life of fake, of masking. Now it was exposed. I was exposed, very vulnerable. And so I had to have conversations, a lot of one-on-one conversations with my kids, my clients, the ones that I kept. Because, going through something, you realize that, oh, I really didn't like this person and I don't really want to work with them. And the money is not that good for my mental health. I learned things about myself that caused me to work differently. Email drives me crazy. It gives me high anxiety. So clients know if they email me, well, it's got to be one and done. You can't email me back to back because I'm not going to open them other ones.
We gotta hop on a call and let's just watch this and be done.
That's it. You have to figure out how to do life differently. So for me, it was almost like my life flipped upside down, but it was also in a good way, because I got very intentional, that word you use, about who I wanted to work with, who I didn't want to work with, and how I wanted to work with people going forward.
It's so refreshing to hear that too from like the business side, because I think especially if you've never been in a client facing role, you don't have to necessarily be an owner, but if you've ever been in a client facing role, it's hard, like the toll that can take. And I don't care if you're a server or bartender at a restaurant. I don't care if you work business to business and you're working with accounts, whatever the case may be. When you're client facing, like there's this mask that you put on.
Right.
And because everything has to get left to the side so you can go do the work, and because you're doing it in front of an audience essentially.
Right. Essentially, exactly.
Yeah. And so, and people who have never experienced that have more internal based roles, like they don't know what that's like to like have to constantly battle that. But to your point, as a business owner, part of that for you is like knowing, who do I want to work with and who do I not want to work with? And yeah, they're paying me, but is it worth it? And good for you for acknowledging that. And like, because I guess most people would say, well, no, take the money. But at what cost?
Your mental health, your sanity. And again, remember, I'm a faith girl. So I believed that, as I'm having these conversations with God about like what's next, he's bringing the right people that I'm aligned with. The clients I have now are clients that I've had like for years, and they're just repeat. And like, no, their events aren't the same, but with their repeat customers, clients that I know, they know how I work, I know how they work, they know that I'm very vocal. During one of my clients' events planning, I lost 2 family members, one in August and one in September, and July and September. And their event was like November. And they were like, I got you. I know what it's like. I understand from a standpoint of loss. I don't know what you're going through actually, but it's having these conversations and knowing who you work with, and that the money's gonna come when you are in purpose. When you do purpose work that is intentional, the money comes. It just comes. Like, It'll come.
I did the show with a couple guys out of Australia a couple months, I guess about a month or two ago, and that's what they talked about. You know, they both were in real
Yep.
estate, and then they started their goal is to be the number one mental health podcast in Australia. Shout out Shared Minds, guys. And they're doing it, and that's their belief too. They're like, look, we believe wholeheartedly because we have purpose. Like the money will come. We'll figure that out,
Yep.
but because we're
Yep.
acting with purpose. And so,
Right.
hearing other people say that, but it is tricky though, because
It is. It is.
it's tricky though, because to me, maybe I would love to get your thoughts on this. There's a version of this with what I do on my side of things where people could go, oh, well, he's really just capitalizing on people's grief and suffering. And they hear that and I take that that's like the one thing you can say to me that like actually hurts. Otherwise, like I'm on the internet, people can say whatever comments about me, I don't care at all. Could not possibly care less. If the best thing you can do with your day is to talk shit on the internet,
About me, like I give a
like
damn.
I'll be your punching bag because clearly you need something that I can't like. That's fine. That's fine. But the one thing that people can say that still hurts is when someone kind of refers to it as like, oh, he's just capitalizing on people's pain, and that's hard because
Right.
it is a business though. Like it is. So how do you balance like the part where you do need revenue to survive and provide for your family and provide for your community, but at the same time you operate in a space where there are people that are in pain. How do you navigate those waters?
I heard a quote um like years ago. I am a huge TD Jakes fan, and he wrote a book called Disruption. And it's a very, very like, oh my gosh, that book is just game changing for me. And so he talks about just it's disruptive thinking. He talks about how um doing things on the other side of what's normal per se. And so for me, I don't feel like we capitalize on anything. I feel like if someone breaks their leg, is the doctor capitalizing on fixing the broken leg? Or they just gonna fix the damn leg? And yes, they get paid for it. Um, what's any different from what it is that we do? I feel like people will pay for something that is going to provide relief for them. What do we pay for? I pay somebody to do my laundry. I don't want to wash no damn clothes, okay? I'm not doing it, Will. I'm not doing it. That was the first thing I did. The first little jump in income I got, the first thing I did was go hire a laundry
That's
service.
awesome.
Baby, wash them. I ain't got time. It frees me up to create more content, to have more space for my community. Listen, so I don't feel like we capitalize. I do feel like there are some frauds in this space. And I do feel like they are. And they group us all in together. But our fruit will is different. You can see our fruit. People's lives are changed. People feel differently when after they have watched Sunday Reset, after they have listened to you, after they have been to one of my events or something. We see transformation that happens. So to me, I don't feel like we are capitalizing on anything when it comes to that. I feel like we provide a resource. And unfortunately, or fortunately, that resource comes at a cost. When I look at some of these other gurus out here who are charging like money, when I say like goo gobs of money, I'm like, what? You charging people to do what? And then everybody now wants to throw a wellness piece into everything they doing. And it's some fake stuff. It's like, no. So I don't feel like we do. I feel like the ones who aren't capitalizing, it's slow growth for us. Like because keep in mind, Will, we got to go through some stuff to be able to tell people about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I never understood that. I was like, God, why would you take? I had 4 family members die in a matter of 5 months, 1 year, which set me up to be able to talk about grief for an entrepreneur. So how could I be able to talk about grief as an entrepreneur if I didn't lose 4 people? Like, not that I wanted to lose them, but how? How could I talk about it if I didn't experience it? So I feel like our slow growth helps people really see us and see us authentically. Like, we are so raw. Like, they see all our insides. We're like literally our guts. They see us go through. And I think that's what makes us different from the ones who actually are capitalizing, because we can't fake this stuff we doing. This shit ain't fake for us. At all.
You can say whatever you want about me, all that stuff. The one thing that no one is able to say is that I'm that I'm fake. Is that
Right.
like if you think that, then you're clearly not paying attention.
Right.
And I don't have time for that. Like, I'm sorry. Like, then you're not my audience, and I'm okay with that, and I can live with that.
And we can move on,
Yeah,
baby.
it's okay. Like,
We can move on.
it's okay that like what I have is not for you, you know. That's okay, and I'm good with that. But it may be for somebody else.
Exactly.
That's like my favorite
Exactly.
piece of feedback that I get from my book is when people are like, "That sounds like you." It sounds like you. Like, it sounds like I hear your voice as I'm reading it, and that's all I've ever wanted. Like, I don't care about sounding like an expert. I've never once cared about being an expert.
What is that? Like, what is that? You know,
Yeah,
you're right. You want to sound like you.
I'm me, and I like, there are people that have clinical research and they have the repertoire to say I'm an expert in this field. I'm not. I'm only an expert in me, I suppose, and I'm here to connect people in a way that's healthy and meaningful, to know that they're not alone. So, and that's, I mean, to your point, like, that's what drew me to your page. Like, and so for those who don't know, like, Lakisha and I don't even know each other that well. I just started following her on Instagram because I was like, this is someone I identify with. This is somebody, and well, you might look at us and go, how does he identify? But like, it's the authenticity. It's that you are you all the time, and those are people that I want to surround myself with, because I care about that. And so what does that mean to you then as a business owner, though? Because some people would say, oh, well, you're a business owner, you need to make sure to play the part. But you're someone who's so authentic. How do you balance that?
So I think that there isn't one if you are authentic, honestly. I think there isn't one. I do feel that there's an intentionality, and there's purpose and intentionality in everything that we do. I feel like, to be authentic, you don't have to be nasty and mean and all these things that people feel like it is. It is like, oh, I'm just telling it like it is. Okay, whatever. I do feel like, as an owner, because I am an owner, I get to run my shit how I want to.
Hell yeah.
I show up how I want to, in the best light I feel like for me as an owner. So again, to your point, Will, you either rock with me or you don't. I'm a church girl, I'm a faith girl, but I cuss. Jesus flipped tables in the synagogue. He turned water into wine. I drank wine. Okay? That's just me as an owner. When I show up as the owner that you would want to do business with. However, if I'm not that girl for you, then you keep it pushing, and we keep going. If we're in the same spaces and you don't want to say hi, or I don't care. I'm okay with that. I feel like with authenticity, you draw the right people, and your people don't care about you being prim and proper. Your people don't care about how you show up, as long as you show up fully, authentically, with intentionality to serve them. Because we don't do this for us, y'all. This ain't got nothing to do with us. This is for the people that we serve. We are servant leaders. This is all about the people that we serve in our communities.
I love that last part. I love everything you're saying, but that last part hits home so hard because, to your point, like it's my ego is aside on all this. Like it's so
Right.
interesting because people assume that, oh, you're on social media, you're doing all this stuff, must have a very large ego in all of this.
Right.
And frankly, like, if I could get this mission across without anyone knowing who I was, I would do that. I don't care. It's not about me. But it just so happens, in order for that message to get out there, I have to be this person. But make no
Right.
mistake, like,
Right.
I'm not someone that takes, and I don't think there's anything wrong if you are someone that takes pleasure in being an outward person. Like, there's
Exactly.
nothing wrong with that. That's who you are.
That's you. Right.
But that's not what drives me. What drives me, to your point, is that servant mindset of, I want to help people and I want to meet them where they want to be
Right.
met. And so that really hit home for me when you said that. So I
Yep.
appreciate you putting
Yep.
that out there, because, like, to your point, then it's also something to be said for, well, if I'm not being my most authentic self, who am I attracting to my business? Who am I working with? And then is it
Right.
the right fit for me?
Mm-hmm.
And so have you found that your customer base, you kind of alluded to it, but has your customer base changed a lot because of, you being truly authentic and you being honest with yourself?
It has. It has changed a lot, and for me, it's for the good. I got rid of people that I didn't need to be in relationship with. I got rid of people that I didn't even need to be doing business with. Now, I will say some of those people have come full circle, and maybe now they're back in the fold, and we have found ways to work together. But at the time where this transition is happening, to your point, nobody wants to share that they struggled or they've been in dark places. But if it's our calling, that's what we have to do. And that's how we draw people in. And so I found that the people that I have now don't always look like me, but they think like me, very similar to me. Some of them are just as disruptive, who may say, well, Lakisha, I agree with this, but I feel like you're too broad on this. You need to like dive in, like you need to go deeper. And those people make me better. They make me better. They make me think like, am I just being surface? They call me out. That's a call out to me of, okay, homegirl, you ain't going deep enough. Like, we want to know more. We want to hear more, things like that. So it's grown. Like now I'm getting people who I'm like, I've always wanted to work with you, or I've always wanted to have conversations with you. And now you see me. You probably couldn't see me at first because I had a mask on. You probably couldn't see me at first because I wasn't being the real Lakisha. Now you see me. And now you want to work with me because just like us, Will, people are just as intentional and they want to work with people who are real and authentic. And when we don't show up that way, they don't want to work with us, which is why I say too to people, when I hear people say, oh, now that I'm popping, people want to say something or people want to come around. And I say, well, that could go both ways. It could be that you just weren't being who you were supposed to be to be seen. That could be what it was.
And
Not necessarily they wanted to attach on to your fame.
they like you for you now.
Yes, you're showing up as who you are. And I'm flattered. I was flattered when you reached out. I'm flattered when people reach out to me. It's an honor for people to reach out to me. I had a brand reach out, and one of the questions I asked brands is, how do you find me? And they was like, oh, well, we asked ChatGPT. I said, wait, what? That could have been something that went to my head, but it didn't. I'm like, it's AI. What? But it's drawing from something. It's drawing for something. So then my friend was like, girl, I put in top mental health influencers in Houston and you popped up. I was crying because I was blown away that I'm being seen, that somebody sees me for the work that I'm doing. We're heart-centered leaders, which make us servant leaders. So I don't do it to be on Google, to be in chat, I just found that out. I do it because I want somebody to not sit in their office and contemplate, should they take these pills? Should they put a gun to their head? Should they jump off a building? I do it because I want people to be able to empower their teams to say, we have mental health days now, and you can take these mental health days when you need them. Yeah, there are parameters around them. Yes, we got to put some policies and procedures to them. However, you now have these. I do this because I have 2 children and I have 3 grandchildren that I want legacy to be left behind. And when I'm not here, or when I leave a room, I want that legacy to be that she fought for anyone, no matter who they were, to have a safe space to talk about their mental health and to be seen. That's all I care about.
So then I have to ask, because you said before, to go deeper, go deeper. Is there something that you haven't spoken about that you'd like to, you have the time right now? Is there something that you'd like to talk more about?
I think the grief piece is something that I just have not, and that's what they call me out of, is the grief. You tell us you've lost 4 family members in 5 months, but what was that
Right.
like? And I'm like, ooh, it was dark. I couldn't function. I had an event planned in December. I couldn't even do it. I couldn't do it because it was just so much. And I think as God walks me through grief and what it looks like, um, I think my platform on it will get better. We started this year, and My Mind is My Business. We had a grief session, and it was great. People were like, "That's it, that's it," because you got to tell me how I need to navigate this, and not just grief by death. That's the most common thing. But what does the transition look like when you're diagnosed with something? That's grief. Because it's an old you, and now there's a new you. What is that transition when you break up with someone? You lose a job. You get a promotion. It's Grief is the loss of something that you love. I loved my old position. Yeah, I like the promotion, the more money, but I grieve what my life looked like before then, because I could get home to the kids before then. Now I can't. So I feel like grief is one of those things that I'm not really necessarily afraid, but I think it's going to open some stuff up that I may not be ready for. And so my audience is ready. And so I got to get ready. It don't matter. It's not about me. And so I'm actually in grief counseling now. So I have a therapist and I have a grief counselor, because I can't just be about the work, Will, and not do the work.
No kidding. I have to tell myself that all the time. It's like part of this journey it's not to, I hope nobody watches anything that I do and says, oh, he's a completed package. No, I damn sure I'm not. And anytime I think I am for a second, I get humbled real fast.
Hello? Somebody, something gonna humble us. Okay.
And sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need that reminder.
Right.
And so, okay, I see why that happened. So now what am I going to do with it? And how can I present this to the world in a way that makes them feel less alone?
Exactly. And I feel like too with grief, Will, grief is such a touchy subject. And the experts say grief is to be witnessed and grief is this and this. And I do believe that. But there's a responsibility in how we share our grief, because I can't come on your show, even as cool as I think you are, and cry for 30 minutes about my stepdad that passed away and then my brother that was murdered in September. Those are triggers. And I have to be careful with how I disseminate information, triggering sensitive information to people. So I think that's where my holdup is Not that I feel like I need to craft my story. I think I do need to be able to talk about those things and not just be snotting and crying all over the place. Like, I want people to pull from it, like, oh, I don't have to feel sorry for her. Like, I empathize or sympathize with her because I've been in that position, but she gave me something that I can walk away with. I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I could give them how you navigate the loss of a parent, because he was like a parent to me. Him and my mom were married for several years. He was at my mom's deathbed. He was there, like the man held her hand till she took her last breath. He was like my dad. How do you talk about that and what he meant to you or means to you? Because to me, they just live in a different sphere. They're no longer here, but they just live in a different sphere. How do you say that, but I tell you how to navigate it the best way?
I think for all of us that operate in this space, that's something we have to navigate all the time. I'm still
Yeah,
processing this information. So how could I possibly help anybody when I first have to figure it out for myself?
right,
And
right.
so how would you say you're at in that, like, where would you say you're at in that journey now?
I feel like the story piece is coming together as far as like, how I feel, but how to tell you to navigate. Cause I feel like I'm like a bull in the china closet with it. Cause some days your girl is good. And then some days your girl breaking all the china in the china closet. Like literally, I feel like that's where I'm at. But we know grief ebbs and flows. And it's not linear. I want people to stop saying you go through the phases in order, because damn it, you don't. You don't. You do not. And sometimes they recycle. You start over again and again and again. So I think it is, and it could be me, Will. That's the holdup. Because I feel like maybe I need to craft it a certain way. Because I'm very sensitive about the triggers. My brother being murdered is a trigger. He was murdered. He was gunned down like a dog. And it's hurtful that someone thought that less of my brother's life to do that to him. And so you want to be cautious of, what you say and how you share. They teach us as a peer support specialist, they teach us how to share our story. They teach us how to responsibly share. And so I feel like that may be where I'm at, trying to craft it in a way that is not triggering, but it also brings out the real side of me and what I struggle with still to this day.
So I mean, I feel like we're kindred spirits in a lot of ways. So I could keep this conversation going forever, but you know, as we're kind of wrapping things up here, if there's one thing that people could take away from this conversation, what would it be for you?
I want people to feel like not only is it okay, because it's so cliche-ish, that it is your right to not be okay. It is your right to feel how you feel, but what do we do with these emotions? We have to do something with them. We can't keep them there. And it's okay that if you don't feel normal, you don't feel okay, you don't feel like yourself, it's okay to go and seek help. Build a tribe. I have a tribe of beautiful women who we all hold each other accountable. We hold each other up. We do business together. And what brought us together? This whole mental health thing brought us together. So find you a tribe, and know that it's your right to not be okay, but to do something with those feelings that you have.
It was beautifully said. So, Lakisha, where can people find you if they want to know more about your business? If they want to just know more about you. What's the best place for them to find you?
Well, my favorite spot is Instagram. That's my playground. And I know people are like, but you say you work with businesses. I do. LinkedIn is not fun. But I'm on there. I'm on there. But Instagram, you can find me at Lakisha M. Mosley. I am blue checked, so you can find me there. All platforms, I'm Lakisha M. Mosley. My website is LakishaMosley.com. But I'm DM friendly. Shoot me a DM. You want to talk, you feel like you need someone that you can reach out to, I'm there. Also, you can feel free to jump into my mental health safe space called Mind Your Business, and it's mindyourbusiness.space. So I'm everywhere. And trust me, I'm in my DMs all the time.
Can confirm, by the way. Can confirm. I shot her a DM to say, hey, love what you're doing. Let's get on this together. So I can confirm she will reply.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I will.
Well, Lakisha, it's been wonderful talking to you, and you're welcome back on the show whenever you'd like.
Thank you. This was awesome.
I'm
This
glad
is
to
really
hear
awesome.
that. Everybody, feel free to share this episode with somebody if they're going through something. Be kind to each other, and we'll see you next time.